Well, folks, the strike's still going on, and of course, that means you get no cold opening. You're going to get us making fun of another CEO who makes way too much money and needs to pay their writers and actors what they deserve. Am I right, Steve?
Oh yeah, call that an ice cold open. Also, the executive in question this week is David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Brothers, Discovery, probably Halliburton too. Who knows? He's a piece of shit, and he buys everything and ruins it.
He sure does. Last year, he made $39.29 million. 92% of that was bonuses. Now, you're going to sit there and you're going to tell me this man can't afford to pay his writers and actors what they deserve? Really?
I'm pretty sure it comes down to about 4% of what they're making would pay for everything that the writers and actors are asking for. I may be slightly off on that figure, but it's a very low percentage.
Yeah, but Steve, one of the things that we all keep forgetting is, yeah, they might make the art, but these people market it, and I really feel like that's just... No, I'm kidding. I can't actually say that with a straight
That's the marketing
face.
team. That's the marketing department that does that. No, David Zaslav is a stupid, petty, ugly man.
If he were here right now, I'd tell him, David, why are your teeth so small? You look like you got veneers, but you didn't want to commit.
But he also took away the Batgirl movie from us. The whole movie. It got made.
And do you know who was in the Batgirl movie that's currently having a little renaissance, also known as the Berenaissance?
Oh, man, it really breaks your heart, doesn't it? Brendy Frage, Academy Award winner.
Absolutely insane. Think of how you could market that right now if you just push this past the Oscars for a release. Academy Award winner Brendan Fraser's in this film. You're going to sit there and tell me that you're going to make more money with putting it on the shelf as a tax break? Zaslav, screw you. I'm so happy that Warner Brothers Animation Studios workers and Cartoon Network animators are looking to unionize. Screw you. You're a terrible person. I hope one of your 7 private jets crash. But only killing you, not the pilot.
Pilot gets away with a parachute. The one parachute.
And speaking of needing a parachute, Steve, do you wanna get started?
Let's.
All right, hit that intro.
Going into this one blind.
Two friends named Cory and Steve like talking about films and TV. They thought, hey, what if this was a show? That's how we got here, now you know. Wait, what's the name? That sounds terrible, go on. That sounds terrible, go on. We hope you stick around and have some fun right after our intro song. That sounds terrible, go on. Welcome back, folks, to another fantastic episode of That Sounds Terrible, Go On. I'm your host, Cory.
And I'm your host. Wait, hold on. Where's the mic? Hold on.
It's on your left.
No,
my left.
Let me. Oh, there. Okay, cool. I found it. Sorry, I guess I'm coming into this podcast blind. What were you talking about?
Steve, how dare you not be prepared for this podcast?
Well, sometimes I just have sort of a devil-may-care attitude.
Well, you know what, Steve? I'm not afraid to talk about 2003's Daredevil.
You probably should be.
Well, Steve, I'm not that afraid because it's our first film of Affleck August.
Affleck August! What a choice to start with. What a crowning jewel in this man's career.
I feel like it's the one film of his that everybody talks about. I feel like it's talked about more than Good Will Hunting, honestly.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It is definitely a dark red spot on this man's illustrious career. But, hey, we love Ben Affleck around here, am I right?
Well, you do. I just think the bit is silly. I mean, yes, we love Ben Affleck. What a guy. He acts, he directs, he writes, produces, and I wish he would have done any of those in this movie. Now that I've questioned his performance, now it has me questioning, don't I know you?
Don't you?
Let's find out.
Let's.
All right, first question. Nelson and Murdoch take a lot of clients that don't have a lot of money and choose to pay in other means. So, Cory, that makes me wonder, if you had no money and you needed their legal services, what would you use to pay them?
Honestly, I'd probably have to give them video games, if I'm going to be honest. I have quite a collection at this point. I feel like I could give them a few high-end video games and say, you know what? Thanks, guys. Now, to be fair, I'm going to point out the irony of me giving video games to a blind man, but it is what it is.
I mean, in all fairness, video games are probably easier to turn into money than that one guy that paid in fish,
Yeah, because, like, what if you don't have the freezer space for it?
right? They're a law firm. They probably only have room for like 5 or 6 fish at best.
But, Steve, what about you?
I think I would try to parlay a deal where I pay them in like advertising, marketing, some sort of situation with that. I'll make 6 free commercials for them in exchange for legal services or whatever the equivalent cost is. They're gonna get a whole bunch of stuff out of me, and you know what? Doesn't have to look good. Question number 2. One of the many, many cliches in this film is Daredevil always has to deliver a one-liner after defeating the villain. So, Corey, if Daredevil defeated you, what one-liner would he say?
Sliced ginger isn't just for the Chinese. I guess I don't. Yeah, that's that's what I feel like he'd cut me up. So,
Yeah, I mean, he's got those, he could cut you up.
what about you?
Yeah, I think if Daredevil defeated me, he would say something to the effect of, how's that for a gray area? Because you see, my hair is gray for those that can't see me right now because it's a podcast.
We're a podcast now.
Then drink it in, everybody. I put the gray in great hair. Question number 3. When a certain villain in this movie does a murder, he leaves a calling card in the form of a rose on the dead body. So, Corey, you've just done a murder. What are you leaving as your calling card?
You know what? I'm gonna leave a knock knock joke on their person.
The whole joke? Or just like the knock knock and then they say who's there and then another piece of paper falls down in front of him?
Steve, that's way too elaborate for someone like me. No, the whole joke.
Okay, cool. Love it.
What about you?
You know what? I'm going to go with another very obscure Homestar Runner reference, and I'm going to say that my calling card will be a DVD copy of Deep Impact on every single body.
Every single body, Steve?
Every murder victim gets a DVD copy of Deep Impact laid gingerly upon them. And now, I know you.
And I know you. All right, folks, coming up next, alternative titles.
You notice how this is like the one segment that only has one title? Are those light blue contacts, or are you just happy to not see me?
The Devil You Know.
Murdoch on the Disoriented Express.
Fear not, lest ye be dared.
Mr. Magoo 2, Magoo Justice.
What in the hell's kitchen?
Rain Man Without Fear.
Alternative titles.
Isn't it weird we only have that one soundbite?
All right, folks, before we get to our next segment, just a quick commercial break. Can you see why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
It's not that hard.
All right, folks, I am here at Goblin's Den Tattoo out in the lovely Syracuse, New York, being currently inked by Leah, owner, operator, and a fantastic individual. Leah, how are you doing today?
We're doing good. Doing
Really good, doing good. Am I doing good? Am I sitting good?
Yes.
Excellent, fantastic.
We're both hydrated.
That's the dream. Let's be honest here. So how long have you been tattooing for?
I have been tattooing for technically 5 years.
So tell me, what are your favorite tattoos to both design and put on people's bodies?
I think the biggest thing for me is for someone to be really inspired with their idea, really excited. That's always a plus, and not just like a last 6-second kind of deal. Something that you can think about and be like, yep, this is how we're going to do it, critique it, special, all that jazz. But personally, when it comes to style, my drawing style is preferred anime, but I do like cartoons. I do like spooky, scary stuff. I like plants and stuff. A lot of people come to me for floral. Yeah, so I like more animated stuff that can be stylized. Kind of neo-traditional, but not so out there.
Well, you heard it here, folks. If you're looking for any of those kinds of styles or designs, you know exactly where you need to hit up. That is Goblin's Den Tattoo out in Syracuse, New York. What's the Instagram name?
Instagram name is Goblin's Den Tattoo. Same for Facebook. We're currently adjusting our social medias and getting them more active. So Instagram, Goblin's Den Tattoo. Facebook, Goblin's Den Tattoo. And my name is Leah Tran, if you're trying to look for me personally. We also have another artist, Sid, and Sid is also on there as well.
And folks, the Goblin's Den Tattoo is also a safe place for those of you who are LGBTQ+. So if you're looking for a shop that's both safe and not run by pieces of human garbage, then we can give you the guarantee that the Goblin's Den is the destination. Again, that's the Goblin's Den. Find them on Instagram or Facebook and book your next session today. Welcome back, folks.
Well, howdy! I don't know what that was, Corey. I'm sorry.
You know, Steve, I'd say I'm disappointed, but I can't see you. It's like there's this fog in front of me, and it's brought to us by the members of our cast and crew!
Oh, it's the cast and crew!
That's right, folks. Cast and crew is part of the pod where we talk about some cast members, talk about some crew members. Now, are we going to be able to get to every single one of them?
Oh, yes, absolutely, including everybody involved in Elektra, as well as Deadpool 3, and anyone who has ever been involved in any comic book.
We can't do all of that. We can't get to all of those people. Come on, you know that.
Do I, though?
You do now, because I just told you. But, folks, if there's someone a part of this cast and crew that we don't touch on that you think that we should, be sure to hit us up on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube page.
Oh, yeah. Drive that engagement, say mean things to us.
Speaking of saying mean things, let's start off with the director and writer of this film, Mark Steven Johnson. Johnson is best known as the writer for such films as 1998's Jack Frost and 1996's Big Bully. He also served as both director and writer for 2007's Ghost Rider.
Yeah, that tracks.
This explains everything. The direction in this is horrible. You have some pretty good actors in here, and while I don't feel this is the worst performance they've ever gave, it's definitely on the lower tier for the most part. Like, you know that these people are better than this.
The direction and the writing just feels so very paint by numbers. It's like they just took a list of cliches and he just sort of laid them out in front of each other, and that's the movie that we got. There's no original thought happening anywhere.
It felt like I was watching a Daredevil film where it desperately wanted to be a Batman film.
Yeah.
All right, folks, let's move on from the direction and writing, which I'm sure you we're going to get more into as we go, and talk about the cinematographer, Erickson Core. Now, Core is best known as the cinematographer for 2001's The Fast and the Furious, as well as both the cinematographer and director for 2015's Point Break remake and 2006's Invincible. I wanted to specifically bring up the cinematography here because it's aggressively dark and gritty and sepia-toned, and it looked like he watched The Matrix once and went, that's what I want, but I want it to be turned up to 11.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely valid. Everything about this is just trying so hard to be dark and edgy that all that comes across is how hard they're trying. It doesn't work, it doesn't land, none of it is earned. Yes, the main character is blind, but most of the audience is not.
Yeah, it's certainly decisions that happened here. It's either too dark or not dark enough. It's all over the place here. The only good lighting in these scenes has to do with when Daredevil is looking in that.
So he calls it a radar sense, which is just wildly inaccurate. It's more like sonar or echolocation.
Yeah, when you see it through his eyes, that looks cool, but that's all completely CGI'd. That is not have anything to do with his cinematography. So,
yes, it is a cool effect that is a good way of illustrating his powers, and that's not easy to do.
But Mr. Core here did not have anything to do with it.
Sad.
Next up, let's get into some cast members, starting with the star of our month of August, a Mr. Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock slash Daredevil. Now, Affleck is best known as the co-writer and as Chucky Sullivan in 1997's Good Will Hunting, A.J. Frost in 1998's Armageddon, Shannon Hamilton in 1995's Mallrats, Holden McNeil in 1997's Chasing Amy, Bartleby in 1999's Dogma, Nick Dunn in 2014's Gone Girl, Sheriff Hammond in 1998's Phantoms, Larry Jiggly in 2003's Jiggly, and Batman in the Snyderverse DCU film franchise. He's also known as the director and co-writer of 2007's Gone Baby Gone, 2010's The Town, as well as directing 2023's Air and 2012's Argo. He has been nominated for 2 Academy Awards, winning both, 3 BAFTAs, winning 2, 5 Golden Globes, winning 3, 4 Primetime Emmy Awards, 2 WGA Awards, and 12 Golden Razzies, winning 4, 2 of which were for his work in this film. So a lot of people, like I said before, talk about his performance here, and a lot of folks kind of pinpoint this as his quote-unquote downfall in Hollywood. And I really got to be honest, Affleck isn't the problem in this film. Does he do an amazing job? No, he doesn't. Some of the dialogue he's given, what the hell are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah, you make a fair point. However, I am going to criticize Ben and Ben alone for this. He does not know how to act blind. His eyes are far too often looking at things that they should not be looking at, or he'll go like slightly cross-eyed with it, or just like look up. It's not convincing blind acting, and I find it really distracting. He just puts in some light blue contact lenses and sort of calls it a day.
So I'm actually going to kind of ruin a little bit of the generically named How It's Made. Those blue contacts actually made him blind. Like, he could not see when he had those in.
Well, it doesn't come across.
No, it definitely doesn't. He looks funny more often than not. I took more than a few screenshots of times where I was taking notes, so I paused the film, and every time I would pause on him, it would just be one of the funniest things I've seen, because it's unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his physical acting here was not good, but you kind of like tell like he's really trying his best.
Except for his eyes.
Except for his eyes. I'm talking just dialogue-wise, like delivering the dialogue, because this script is trash. Call it what it is. This script is absolute trash.
It is, yeah. I'm not arguing that 1 second. There are some deliveries he gives that it's a terrible line, but the deliveries could have been better.
It also goes back to the director, too. You should be able to direct people. We've seen the quality he's put out prior to this. Was it like the best of the best? No, but he's a pretty good actor up to this point. In all honesty, yeah. I mean, good God, look at his performance in Chasing Amy and tell me that that's not an award-worthy performance.
It is excellent. The man does have a lot of talent. I'm not going to deny that. But this was one of many, many things that just reminded me how much better the show is.
Oh, no, the show is great. Like, absolutely, the show is amazing.
And I just want a real quick shout out Charlie Cox's blind acting. He did it right. So much so that when I see him in other things, I think he's Matt Murdock pretending to be able to see.
One more thing I do want to bring up about Affleck, more so this is just a criticism of the character and, again, the writing. Mm-hmm. Did you notice that while he's in a lot of the film, he barely talks?
Yeah, he's brooding. He's got a brood.
It's an hour and 43-minute film where the hero from a comic book, you know, known for dialogue to describe what's going on, doesn't really talk.
But he narrates a lot.
Yeah, he sure does. But, you know, what are you going to do?
Watch this movie, unfortunately.
Well, you can't watch this movie without one Jennifer Garner as Elektra Natchios. Garner is best known as Wanda in 2000's Dude, Where's My Car?
Episode 36.
Vanessa Loring in 2007's Juno, Sydney Bristow in TV's Alias, and Jenna Rink in 13 Going on 30. She even reprised her role of Elektra in 2005's sequel to this film, also titled Elektra, and she has been nominated for 4 Golden Globes, winning 1, 4 Primetime Emmys, and 3 SAG Awards, winning 1. Another person just dealt a real crappy hand. Like,
oh yeah.
We know that she can play hero badass, end of the day.
She can deliver quips and she can pose. She's very good at both of those things. She very clearly is good at at following fight choreography. Not something to be discounted. She does an excellent job. I have a lot fewer problems with her performance than with Ben Affleck's, if we're being honest. The lines are obviously terrible still, but I feel like she put in a little bit more effort.
No, you're right. Garner did the best she could with what she had. She did a much better job than I think the majority of the rest of the cast. Most likely because she's kind of already done the female badass, so she just kind of tapped into, all right, what if I'm Sydney Bristow with size? Next up, we've got Michael Clarke Duncan as Wilson Fisk / Kingpin. Now, Duncan is best known as Bear in 1998's Armageddon, Kilowog in 2011's Green Lantern, and John Coffey in 1999's adaptation of Stephen King's The Green Mile. He has also been nominated for 1 Academy Award, 2 NAACP Awards, 1 Golden Globe, and 2 SAG Awards. Unfortunately, he would pass away in September of 2012 due to respiratory failure at the age of 54. Really gone too soon.
Oh, yes. This man was a literal and figurative giant in the industry. His performances, as a whole, just terrific body of work. Obviously cut short way too soon, but oh my goodness. Also, just real quick shout out to the Slammin' Salmon, where he delivers some of the funniest lines I've ever heard.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. I like him as Kingpin. I think the one aspect of this movie that doesn't entirely suck is the villains.
For the most part, yes. To me, when I think of Kingpin, for the longest time, I thought of him. So when they announced Vincent D'Onofrio, everyone was really on the fence about it. Whenever they announce someone for a new role that's already been established in live action, it doesn't matter if I like the person or not. I keep an open mind. I love Vincent D'Onofrio's take on his version of Kingpin. I also like Duncan's take on this version of Kingpin. This version of Kingpin is someone who wants to kind of get his hands messy at the end of the day. Like, he enjoys beating the crap out of people just as much as he enjoys telling people what to do and the whole 9 yards. He really enjoys what he does. Whereas with D'Onofrio, I always felt that his character was more, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it because I have to kind of thing. Like, he's not exactly enjoying the pain he's causing.
Yeah, like when D'Onofrio's Kingpin is violent and inflicts pain, it's more like something that he's victim to the rage himself. Like, he can't control it, it's just something that takes him over. But Duncan's Kingpin, he's so confident that no one will pin all the crime stuff on him that he just lives his life out in the open.
Moving on, though, to our other villain, Colin Farrell as Bullseye. Now, Farrell is best known as Stu Shepard in 2002's Phone Booth, Jerry Dandridge in 2011's remake of Fright Night, David in 2015's The Lobster, the third Imaginarium Tony in 2009's The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, in 2022's The Batman, and Padraic Sauhain, I know I'm butchering that, in 2022's The Banshees of Inisherin. He's been nominated for 1 Academy Award, 1 BAFTA, 3 Golden Globes, winning 2, and 2 SAG Awards. I felt a lot of overacting from Farrell here, but at the same time, he looks like he's having the time of his life.
Dude, he is by far my favorite thing about this movie. Yes, he's overacting, but it's like the best kind of overacting. It is so much fun. It takes you for a ride. He's doing all these horrible things and killing people left and right, but he's just so, like, slimily charming and joyful about everything that, like, you can't even be mad at him. Like, you should be as a human, but as an audience member, you're like, haha, he killed a woman. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, I just feel like when you look at the rest of the film, his character itself, again, no criticism toward Colin's performance, but his character just seems so far off the path of everything else we're going for here. We're going for like a dark and very serious take on Daredevil, and then you have Bullseye here.
Yeah,
just
the joyful psycho.
Right. Again, oh look, You're making a Batman film, because this is the Joker.
Pretty much.
And folks, that's going to wrap up Casted Crew!
Hey, it's the cast and crew!
Next up, the generically named How It's Made.
Hey, how'd they make that?
As always, folks, with the generically named How It's Made, I have gone through and compiled an entire production history to the best of my abilities and placed everything into a document. Now, Steve has not seen this document before, so he is opening it as we speak, and he is going to read it out loud to you all, giving us his takes as we go. So, Steve, whenever you're ready, kick us off.
So 20th Century Fox would option the film rights to the character Daredevil from Marvel Comics in 1997, with Chris Columbus set to direct. That seems like an odd fit. Like, I guess he's directed, like, stuff that isn't for kids, but I always just associate him with Home Alone and Harry Potter. That seems very un-superhero. That would have been quite a different take. In 1998, when Marvel was facing bankruptcy, Fox allowed the option to expire, prompting Disney to begin negotiations to acquire the rights for themselves. In 1999, these negotiations would fail, and Marvel would instead set the project up with Columbia Pictures. While this was going on, both Columbus and Carl Carley would co-write a script together. The script would be thrown out after hiring on Mark Steven Johnson to write the screenplay instead. That is something I would like to read. I'm sure it doesn't exist anywhere on the internet, but if anyone out there has got like an obscure copy of the Chris Columbus Daredevil script, shoot us a DM.
Did you ever think you'd say that sentence?
Nope. In the year 2000, Columbia decided to cancel the project as they and Marvel Comics could not come to an agreement over digital rights. Later that year, New Regency would make an offer, successfully attaining the film rights, with Fox handling the distribution. Johnson was brought back in to rewrite the script, turning it in 2001. The script was said to be, quote, more character-driven, darker, and edgier, with Kevin Feige feeling the script was one of the strongest Marvel had received at the time. Wow, Kevin, why you gotta be so mean to Marvel? Due to the success of 2002's Spider-Man, Fox would raise the budget for the film by $30 million. Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man really set everything into motion for us. Fox pushed for filming to take place in Canada in order to save money, but after Johnson, Ben Affleck, and the cinematographer, Erickson Core, expressed disinterest in shooting there, Fox would allow shooting to occur in Los Angeles. But it's supposed to be New York City. Yeah.
They do that, you know that.
Yeah, but usually you go for Toronto when you want to stand in for New York. It's an odd choice. Oh, but I literally just said why they don't shoot in Canada. Look, I don't pay attention, Corey. Shut up. Throughout filming, Affleck had to wear cataract milky blue contacts, which would make him actually blind during filming. But still, like, his eyes instinctively are trying to look at stuff. Someone who has been blind since the age of, let's say, 12 would not be doing that. To market the film trailer would air during Super Bowl 38, along with a form of marketing involving a viral email. To participate, you had to book tickets to the film online, then pass the email on to someone else with the idea of encouraging online ticket booking, which was a growing trend at the time. The contestants would win prizes such as Daredevil t-shirts, Nintendo Game Boy Advance games, and cufflinks. I bet those cufflinks are pretty awesome. TBH.
I would love to see them. I couldn't find a picture of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm curious whether they would try to be like replicas of Kingpin's cufflinks, because he's got all those close-ups with him, or if it's like the Daredevil logo.
Probably the Daredevil logo.
That's what I'm thinking too. But still, that's cool. Early viral marketing. When we get to the Cloverfield trilogy / saga, we're going to get way into viral marketing, Corey. Just a heads up. The film would be released on February 14th, 2003, 5 days before your co-host's 13th birthday. And guess what we did for my birthday? We went to see Daredevil in theaters, and we got a tour of the projection booth.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep, and we loved the movie because we had bad taste. So, open to 3,400 screens in North America, taking first place its opening weekend, grossing $40.3 million. This would make it the second biggest February release at the time, behind 2001's Hannibal. Interesting, it made less than an R-rated movie. The film would go on to make $179.2 million against a $78 million budget. Not bad. It would spawn a video game tie-in for Nintendo Game Boy Advance, as well as inspire an original song called The Man Without Fear, performed by Drowning Pool and Rob Zombie. Come on, come on, come on, come on, Daredevil!
Yo, that song slaps, honestly.
It's a good song, but they use it wrong in the movie. Did you notice that?
They use a lot of songs wrong in the movie, and we'll get there.
We'll get there. They use it wrong. The film would go on to be nominated for 2 Razzie Awards. Wow, only 2. With Ben Affleck winning 1 for Worst Actor. 9 Teen Choice Awards. F***ing teens. Winning 1 for Choice Movie Villain for Colin Farrell's Bullseye. Okay, that's justified. The man's wonderful. I love him as Bullseye. I'm not going to deny it. And 3 MTV Movie Awards. Winning 1 for Breakthrough Female Performance for Jennifer Garner. What the f*** was she breaking through? She was already a name.
I don't think she was really a big name in, like, action films, though.
Wasn't Alias already out at this point, though? Alias was huge.
It was a TV show, not a movie.
Yeah, but still.
This is the MTV Movie Awards.
Fine. Whatever.
It's chosen by stupid teenagers, all right? And stupid teenagers need the most attention.
Anyway, stupid teenagers, continue listening to our podcast. A sequel was initially planned for, but scrapped after the 2005 spin-off film Elektra flopped, and it flopped hard.
Yeah, it did. I remember, for some reason, we owned that on DVD, and there are parts of that film forever burned into my memory. And there's not enough alcohol in the world to erase that.
I've never actually seen it, and I'm fine with that. I'll just watch the show instead.
We'll get there.
No, we won't. Thus concludes the generically named How It's Made. Oh, that's how they made it.
All right, folks, before we get into our next segment, first, another quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, folks, did you know that we're a couple of corporate whores? We will do whatever you say for money. That's right. We'll give an ad that promises the world to your potential customers for whatever you're trying to sell. Is it true? Doesn't matter. Is it going to work? Still doesn't matter. Give us $5, give us $10. We'll make all your dreams come true as long as your dreams are limited to having your product hawked on our podcast.
But Steve, what if I don't have an advertisement written for you?
Well, for a small extra fee, we can write one for you, aka make one up on the spot and half-ass it.
That's right, folks. If you have any interest in advertising with us, please hit us up on our Instagram at That Sounds Terrible Pod, or find us on Twitter by looking up That Sounds Terrible. Go on.
Slide into our DMs so we can slide into your ads. We're going to do an ad for you.
That's right, folks. Fill our bank accounts so we can line your pockets with that sweet, sweet internet money. Welcome back, folks.
Hey, you made it. Good for you.
Hey, at least they made something good, unlike the director of this film.
Name I've already forgotten. Shaking my fist at you.
It's okay. Hollywood's already forgotten him, too. But you know what I haven't forgotten, Steve?
Ghost Rider 2 Spirit of Vengeance.
I did until this moment, but no. The Breakdown.
Oh, don't do this to me.
As always, folks, with the breakdown, we're going to go through breaking down this entire plot piece by piece, giving our takes as we go. Now, are we able to get to every single part?
Literally, line by line, we're going. So, yes.
Yep, this is now a table read podcast. Just kidding, folks. I just wanted to pull the red leather over your eyes because we're not going to probably be able to talk about every little thing here. It's just there's so much crap to this film. We're probably going to be in pain before the first act is even over. So we're going to get through this as quickly as we can so our pain can end. But if we didn't talk about something that you really feel like we should have talked about, hit us up on our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube channel. All right, Steve, let's kick off this adventure into Hell's Kitchen in 3, 2. A masked man, beaten and bloody, propels himself into a Catholic church. There, he is discovered by Father Everett, played by Derek O'Connor, who removes his mask and asks him to pray. The man begins to tell us his story via flashback.
Yeah, so the opening credits are actually clever and interesting, and I like them a lot.
I fully agree. That little zoom around the city in CGI, but they're spelling out the top bill stars' names in Braille before it fades into, standard print. It's fun.
It is. I'm guessing it wasn't the director that came up with that because credit scenes are usually outsourced to different companies, but whoever came up with that absolutely earned their paycheck.
I have one complaint in that the music for it is a little too serious. It feels more like an ominous thriller type of theme instead of like an action theme behind it. Like I'm not feeling pumped to be getting into this film. I'm feeling on edge and sad.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, then we open to this church. Good God, the blurry close-up action shots being cut in between as we're going up the church, and then we see atop of the church, clinging to the steeple like a koala bear clinging to a tree, is our titular hero.
Yep, and the movie is just hitting the ground running with all these cliches. We're starting off in media res, which is a trend that really needs to die. 95% of the time, it doesn't work. This is part of that 95%. Start your story at the beginning unless you have a really good reason not to. You're not being cool or edgy. And then if that wasn't enough, we get narration. He may as well be saying, I bet you're wondering how I got here.
That's literally this opening. It's, again, as you said, so cliche. It immediately makes me want to turn off this film because I don't want to see this at all. It's been done to death. Stop it.
Also, when he was starting to go back into the narration and flashback, I was reminded of Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. Before Matt Murdock beats the villain, he has to think about his entire life.
As a child, Matt Murdock, played by Scott Terra, is often bullied by the neighborhood kids. He also helps to take care of his father, washed-up prizefighter Jack the Devil Murdock, played by David Keith. Jack pushes his son to get an education and not be a fighter like himself. One day, Matt is accidentally blinded by radioactive waste shortly after witnessing his father extorting money for local mobster Fallon, played by Mark Margolis. Despite this, Matt's remaining senses are dramatically enhanced, giving him superhuman agility and sonar-like hearing. The other thing about this flashback that I hate, it's told through this low-volume, raspy voice in a way to make it come off as super serious, but it's a joke.
Yep. It's all part of the brooding aesthetic that he's got to go with. And they really yada yada through the getting superpowers thing. All you need to say is toxic chemicals, and you can just get away with anything in a movie.
It's kind of like the aliens excuse. How did this happen? Aliens. Oh, okay, cool.
Yep, pretty much.
But they don't do anything to make it interesting at all. That's the problem. You can use a simple explanation in a film, but you have to make it interesting. They did not make this interesting whatsoever. Let's talk about these bullies real quick and how they are some top-tier Stephen King bullies.
Oh yeah, they're Stephen King as hell.
I was surprised the leader didn't call Murdoch any form of a homophobic slur.
Yeah, no, that's a win for the movie, because it easily could have happened in the early 2000s. Something else they really yada yada over is how he became so good at acrobatics and fighting and whatnot. Like, they make it seem like being able to hear and feel better just makes you a master acrobat right off the bat. Like, didn't have to have anyone come in and train him or show him any sort of technique. He's just a ninja right away.
So, in the comics, Daredevil's main power isn't the fact that he does the sonar hearing, it's that he has impeccable balance.
That is another sense.
It is. It's never talked about here directly that, oh, it turns out I have impeccable balance. They could have just thrown that in and that would have been fine, but they didn't do that. Also, he would be trained at a young age by another blind man who knows how to fight by the name of Stick.
Who also trained Elektra.
Yes, which is how they tie together. But of course, why would you put Stick in this film? There's already so much happening that we don't have time to make sense of anyways.
Sure. Why would we want an interesting character?
Like, for the director to say, like, oh, I was such a huge Daredevil fan. I was so excited to write and direct this film. But you leave out one of the most crucial points to Daredevil's origin story, where he's this little kid, he feels lost, alone in the world, he has these powers that he doesn't understand, but here comes someone who can understand his perspective, a blind martial arts master.
Yeah, that would have been so cool. And if this movie were being made today, Stick would have to be played by Donnie Yen. He's who you call when you need a blind badass. Like, it's weird that he's done it twice, you know?
Let's go for 3. Come on, Donnie. Let's do it.
Donnie Yen for stick!
Feeling responsible for his son's accident, Jack is inspired to abandon his life of crime and recommit to his boxing career, leading to a dramatic comeback. Later, after Fallon reveals that he enabled Jack's comeback by bribing his previous opponents to let him win, he attempts to bribe Jack to throw his next match, and has him murdered once he refuses. Now we get a montage set to some semi-sad metal song that shows Matt reading Braille and honing his powers a bit more, with Jack beating the crap out of people in a boxing ring. It is laughably bad, and another part where they just don't know how to use songs in this movie.
They had a list of new metal songs, and they just kind of threw a dart at the wall. It's just kind of whatever song is next. Let's just throw it in here. We'll pretend it works because it's new metal. Also, the guy playing Fallon is Hector Salamanca from the Breaking Bad universe, and I couldn't help but combine those two characters in my head. Like, I was just thinking, like, wow, he really diversified in the 80s.
So I want to point out something really quick here that's going to keep coming up as we watch this film.
Mm-hmm.
It's that Matt is terrible at trying to hide the fact that he's completely blind. The second his dad falls to the mat, he stands up at the same time as everyone else, and he's screaming, "Come on, Dad, get up!" Like, if I was the dad seeing this, I would immediately be thinking, wait, is he just assuming that I'm the one that's down right now?
Or is he faking being blind?
Then he makes his way to the ring without his cane.
Mm-hmm.
He's in like the 3rd row.
No one notices.
It's so wild to me, the blinders that people have on. Excuse the turn of phrase.
Just one more thing that reminds me how much better the show is. Like, Matt often actively has to hide the fact that he's aware of everything happening and has to act more helpless and blind than he is. And the rose on the dead body as a calling card, I know we've brought it up already, but Jesus, that is such a cliche. Like, they didn't even try with that one.
I'm fairly positive there was a rose that dropped in the 1989 Batman film when Batman's parents get killed.
I think you're right.
If anyone listening can correct us, let us know, please. Just wants to be Batman. That's it. That's how this film just wants to be a Batman film so bad.
Well, I mean, long term it worked.
Years later, an adult Matt works as an attorney in Hell's Kitchen with his friend Franklin Foggy Nelson, played by Jon Favreau, providing legal representation pro bono to clients whom he believes are actually innocent. By night, Matt fights crime as the costume vigilante Daredevil. One night, Daredevil tracks down and brutally assaults Colombian drug dealer Jose Quesada, played by Paul Ben Victor, an affiliate of Kingpin, the underground boss of all New York organized crime. Quesada used Kingpin's influence in order to get away with raping a woman. Daredevil beats him down before throwing him onto the subway tracks, where an oncoming train severs his body in half. One thing I kind of like here as a detail in the film: Matt Murdock sleeps in a sleep deprivation tank. It's so that he doesn't have to try to sleep hearing all of the noises at once.
It's a good idea, but does that mean that when he sleeps he has to be like perfectly still on his back? Because he rolls over a little bit and that man is drowning in his sleep. There's so much water in there. It seems awesome and very bad idea all at the same time.
And the suiting up here, first off, we rush through that courtroom scene just so we can see him suiting up into Daredevil, and again, really got that Batman 1989 vibes from it.
Yep, gotta have a suit up sequence with lots of quick close-ups of gears and costumes and butts and stuff.
And leather sounds.
Oh yeah, gotta be leather. Can't be a cool comic book costume in the early 2000s unless it's made of leather.
Then we get to see him leaping around the city in the most extra of fashions. Like, it makes sense for a character like Spider-Man to do that, but Daredevil, if I remember correctly, is a bit more reserved in that manner. He's kind of like cold and calculating because he knows, oh, if I land in just the wrong spot, I'm going to break my neck. Whereas Spider-Man is a kid, generally speaking. He's a teenager. Of course, he's going out and being crazy and like doing flips and woohoo, having fun with it. Daredevil is like focused.
Yeah, Spider-Man is also practically indestructible. Daredevil's just a dude.
Well, I mean, Spider-Man's a dude.
He's a dude?
Yeah, Elektra, she's a dude.
Huh, we're all dudes. Hey. Also, his opening line in court as a lawyer, they just needed to make it as groaningly cliche as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, justice is blind. Get it? You get it?
The devil, you say?
It's because he can't see, Cory.
But can you see why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
No, he's blind.
Oh, that's really awkward. I'm sorry.
And I do love that the little detail that he tracks down Quesada at Josie's bar. Just another little detail that reminded me how much better the show is, but they do throw stuff like that in, like Josie's bar and James Wesley.
Yeah, but it's like a flash in the pan and then they move on.
It is. Yes. Again, it's just there just prominently enough to remind me that I love the show.
Let's also talk about the dialogue in this bar before the fight breaks out. What do you want? Justice. Again, we just really want to be a Batman film, don't we?
We really do. Brooding in the shadows, perched up on a ledge, growling about justice.
And the music in this scene is weirdly muffled the entire time. And do you want to know why?
Because it's Nickelback.
No, because we're hearing it through Matt's ears and he's focusing on his surroundings more.
And because it's Nickelback.
I'm okay with that. I'm just saying that's a very weird choice to make. I like, it's a 2-minute or so fight scene, and the entire time it's just this muffled song playing in the background. You really should have like broken it up a little bit. Like when we focus on Jose running away, play the music full blast like it's supposed to be played. And then when it cuts back to Daredevil, then, you know, have it be muffled. That way you can sell the gimmick, but you're not beating it to death.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that after the fact, but I guess they had to learn the hard way. That's the name of the song that's playing. I owned this soundtrack as a child, and I listened to it so many fucking times. This was a frequent rotation in my CD player.
God, I'm so sorry.
I know, I had terrible taste.
Ben Urich, played by Joe Pantoliano, a New York Post reporter who chronicles Daredevil's exploits, shows up at the crime scene where the police tell him that Daredevil doesn't exist. The next morning, Matt goes to a confessional where the priest from earlier tells him that he can't condone his murders and urges him to give up his vigilantism. Can I just say, I love Joe Pantoliano whenever he plays these types, like whether it's a neo-noir, gangster, slimy type, whatever. He just nails these roles every single time.
Oh yeah, no, he's got like that certain voice and just way about him that no one else can replicate. Like, you buy that he's sort of a scuzzy reporter, but you also kind of buy he like actually cares a bit. It's an interesting line to walk.
Also, the casual throwing of the cigarette that
Jesus.
lights up the 2Ds. What? First off, so you're telling me that all of these investigators are walking back and forth through this train station. There is water all over the floor, but this flammable liquid stayed in place the entire time.
Perfectly intact and still with enough fumes to be flammable, seemingly hours later. And Daredevil took the time to lay that out. Let's think about that. He killed a guy and then stuck around to do some artwork on the floor.
And it's like the only time he leaves a calling card the entire film. I feel like it was all done just for the one shot of it reflecting in Ben's glasses, which laughably terrible.
It's a trailer shot.
There's also a brief scene afterwards where we see Murdoch returning home. He's hanging up the suit and he runs his answering machine to some woman named Heather breaking up with him because he doesn't make enough time for her in his life and blah, blah, blah. I don't know where you're going. You're out all night and yada, yada, yada. Just make a Batman film. Just make a Batman film already.
Yep. And something that really disturbs me about this scene is that like he's at the end of the day and takes like some pills seemingly for all the pain, and he just chews the pills. Who the fuck chews pills like that? Pills don't taste good, for those unaware. you generally just try to swallow them whole as quickly as possible so that you don't taste them. But when you chew them, they get in your teeth, and the taste is all over. And he has a heightened sense of taste, too. Jesus, Matt. And there's no way Matt could afford this apartment with the kind of clientele he takes on as a lawyer.
Right, like I was really confused how this happened because his dad didn't seem like the type who would have a life insurance policy, or at least not one that would be worth like a crap ton of money that would like get put into a trust fund or something like that for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that at all. So watching this just confused me so much. Like, what? You have all of these nice things. Like, another thing the show got right, Matt Murdock lives in a slum because that's what he can afford.
Well, also, though, the reason that Matt Murdock's apartment is so big in the show is that directly across from it is a very bright video billboard. So no one else wants to live there because they wouldn't be able to sleep. But a blind man is fine.
Again, it's a great detail, explains why the rent is so cheap, but the rent has to be cheap because he can't afford anything else.
Exactly.
Afterwards, Matt meets up with Foggy at a coffee shop where Foggy complains about always working pro bono. There, he meets a woman named Elektra and starts flirting with her. Elektra pushes off his advances, leaving the two to fight on a playground whilst they flirt. So they try to force in a little meet cute, but it's really awkward, and then it takes a real hard left turn into Cringe Town.
Yeah, he gets super grabby with her. It's not a good look.
And it's not like a simple, like, grab. It's a grab. Like, he grabs her wrist and was like, hey, where do you think you're going, kind of thing. And I'm just like, oh, God, no.
Our hero, everybody.
Mr. Murdock, I understand that you're blind, but this is not the look.
Absolutely not. And the fight is fine, and it's cool and whatever. But again, this is like Matt very clearly not trying to hide at all his abilities out in the open, in public, with a person that he's never met before, and no one says anything.
Nope. It's also like they committed to this fight to be a wire fight, but without wanting to put in the effort of either making it completely over the top or subtle.
Mm-hmm.
You're half in, half out. Like when you're doing a wire kung fu fight, you have to either go all in or it has to be like very, very carefully sprinkled in when it's needed. And they decided, no, we're just going to be right in the middle of everything and just be like really over the top, really subtle, really over the top, really subtle without. Yeah, it's bad. It's a really bad fight scene. It also isn't used to tell a story, like the physical fight itself. They are using their facial expressions and their crappy dialogue to flirt instead.
It goes on way too long just to be like, hey, here's two sexy people that met each other. And also just the crowd of children that appears out of nowhere to cheer them on. It just happens.
Especially given that I get the idea while watching this film that, Murdock and Foggy are pretty well known around the neighborhood because, hey, we're the lawyers who will take on your case without you having to pay us actual money. Hell's Kitchen also is not that big. So it's kind of one of those boroughs or like a sub borough, if you will, that's going to go, everyone here kind of knows each other. You're telling me all those kids don't know who that is? You're telling me people walking down the street don't know that that's Matt Murdock, the lawyer?
They just don't even bother addressing it.
Meanwhile, the Kingpin is revealed to actually be Wilson Fisk, a brutal mobster who poses as a legitimate businessman. After an article written by Ulrich is published about the Kingpin, Fisk's lieutenant, Nicholas Nachios, played by Eric Avari, asks to be bought out of the organization. Fisk decides to frame Nicholas as the Kingpin and hires Bullseye, a hitman with supernatural aim, to kill him. What a visual we get with this first shot of Kingpin. The camera panning up, and he's just staring out an office at the top of a skyscraper, smoking a stogie, and holding that very unnecessary cane in his hand.
Oh, but it's so cool.
It is. It's cool. It's intimidating. And then when he starts talking, you just feel how bad of a motherfucker this guy is.
Absolutely. Like, this is where the film starts to get less horrible, very briefly, when we get to see our villains. His look is fucking top-notch. His suit is incredible. Just the look on his face that he's on top of everything, he's in charge, and no one can touch him. It's incredible.
I wish we had gotten Duncan to play more mafiosa, like mob types here. God, he would have been fantastic if he did more roles like that too.
Absolutely. Intimidating as hell.
Mm. There's also a quick scene we get of Elektra and Matt walking the streets of New York, talking before it jumps back to Kingpin talking about, I'm going to kill Nicholas, whatever. Here's my question to the editor. Why wouldn't you cut this to take place after the fight and just keep the Kingpin momentum going?
Shut up.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
No good reason. Also, love the Bullseye introduction.
Yeah.
First, he's got the hat on, and he's winning at darts, and then guy insults him for being Irish and kills him with the paper clips.
One of the things, too, that kind of drives home that he's like an Irish badass, if you listen to the song that's playing in the background, it's by a certain artist called House of Pain, who is a Celtic rap artist.
Also the same artist that did Jump Around.
Correct. Yes. They also show off one of the things about Bullseye that makes a lot of sense in the comics. The man loves theatrics. Like, look at the way he twirls that leather coat onto himself. However, I will say that I don't feel the way he kills the guy in the bar to be intimidating. I think it's just kind of stupid. I get that it was kind of supposed to say he could kill a guy with a paperclip, but the darts already showed how accurate he is. And the next scene, I feel, is a better example of how good he is and how vicious of a killer he is.
Rare instance here, I'm going to defend something in the movie. That scene wasn't to show how good he is at aiming and killing. It was to show how petty he is. Because when he gets over to the States, he ends up going after Daredevil for the most petty reason possible.
We'll get there.
We will get there. But to me, that's what that was showing us. Like, he will kill over so little.
I mean, I feel like the next scene also kind of shows that a little bit,
That's
too.
true. That's true.
Like, if you just annoy him, he'll kill you. So let's talk here. Let's talk the racist grandma on Bullseye's plane ride. Oh, she's sleeping. Yeah, sure. I also feel like her death is totally justified because she's a racist. Like, when she says, like, oh, talking about someone her daughter or whoever is, like, dating, like, oh, he's a mixed fellow, mulatto, like, you know, a splash of cream in your coffee.
Yeah. But ultimately, he's just killing her because she won't shut up. But, like, the way that he does it and the way that he reacts to it and just, like, goes about living his life is just so funny and charming. Yeah, it also helps that she's a racist, but, like, you're kind of happy that he killed an old lady. That's what the movie does to you.
One of the very few high points.
Yeah, the line "more peanuts, please" is just the cherry on the cake. I love it.
After beating a criminal down in front of his kid, Daredevil begins to question if what he's doing is the right thing. The next morning, Matt is invited to a black tie gala, but tells Foggy he doesn't want to go. That night, he runs into Elektra and takes her to the roof where his dad would train. The two talk a bit about their upbringing and kiss in the rain. As they kiss, Matt hears the cries for help throughout the city, with Elektra convincing him to stay with her instead. They then have sex in Matt's apartment. The next morning, Elektra leaves the gala invite for Matt to find.
Question, and I could probably look this up, but I'm just going to ask you instead. When Matt comes into the law office, for like 2 seconds, there's the woman from Grey's Anatomy who greets him and like tells him all his stuff. Is she supposed to be Karen Page?
Correct.
Okay. Awful.
Complete waste of a great character.
Yeah, she's on screen for like 2 seconds.
Oh, the rain on the rooftop? Again, he does nothing to actually hide that he has supernatural abilities. Because notice he says how beautiful she is, but he's not touching her face or anything that, you know, blind people would normally do when they're talking about someone's physical attributes.
Yep, he's just like, hey, when it rains, there's all these little sounds, and it's like I can see again. Doesn't raise any red flags. It's totally a blind people thing.
Especially for someone who's built up to be as intelligent as Elektra is. Like, come on, man. Like, Foggy, fine. Pull the wool over Foggy's eyes, whatever. But Elektra? And Steve, I was just telling myself how I was hoping we'd get an unnecessary, super toned down sex scene that goes on for way longer than it needed to, and thank God this film finally delivered.
It goes on so long.
It's like a minute and a half, and it's this like fade in, fade out crap. It's just them like rolling on the bed, essentially. Like they're kissing each other's like not even like lips or anything. They're kissed like it's weird. It's really weird and it's zoomed up, and I hate it because it's not good. It serves no purpose whatsoever.
Plot is at a complete standstill. You could cut that out and nothing would change about the story. Like, all you need to know, they slept together. Because then in the morning, Elektra did the thing that Matt Murdock always does to the ladies. Oh no, it's reversed on him. He woke up and she wasn't there. Get it?
Matt and Foggy attend the gala where they meet Ben, and Ben gives Matt his business card. At the party, they introduce themselves to Fisk. Fisk offers them his business card, but Matt turns him down, saying that they, quote, only represent the innocent. Matt runs into Elektra, where he gives her a good sniff. Unbeknownst to Matt, Elektra is actually the daughter of Nicholas, who is also attending the gala. After being threatened by Fisk, Elektra and her father quickly leave the gala. So it's implied that Matt already knows how crooked Fisk is, and this is a question I immediately had. Are they trying to say that he already knows that Fisk is the kingpin? But what is revealed later on is that he didn't know. He just out of nowhere was like, oh, I don't trust you, you're not innocent. But nothing sets up that he knows this.
Yeah, that's a good point. One of many logical fallacies in this movie. He immediately has it out for Fisk, and I don't think the reason is because he's a rich man, even though that would be a good reason. It's just going after Fisk.
Pretty fisky.
Hey! The going up to Elektra and sniffing her is just real disturbing.
After he makes his way ducking and dodging through people on the stairs without hesitating at all.
Of course, like a blind person.
Bullseye pursues Nicholas and Elektra's limousine and kills the driver, causing it to crash. Daredevil arrives and tries to stop Bullseye. During their fight, Bullseye manages to steal Daredevil's baton and uses it to impale Nicholas, framing him for the murder. Afterward, Urich deduces that Matt is Daredevil after realizing that he disguises his baton as a white cane. Believing Daredevil to be responsible for her father's murder, Elektra attempts to take revenge by killing him. This fight between Bullseye and Daredevil is 30 seconds long, and then it's over. Boring.
Yep. And the song they used to introduce Bullseye's big dramatic villain entrance to face off with a hero is The Man Without Fear by Drowning Pool and Rob Zombie, a song that's explicitly about Daredevil. In fact, says the name Daredevil several times throughout the song. But it's used to introduce Bullseye.
And oh god, Bullseye calling out Bullseye before running off into the night is just so over dramatic. I'm laughing because it's so bad. That's why I laughed at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's valid. And I love that his whole vendetta against Daredevil is because Daredevil made him miss one time. It's as petty as you can get.
I missed. I never miss.
That is a top-notch line delivery when he says that.
Let's talk this funeral scene that's set to Evanescence's My Immortal. I was rolling laughing the second I heard like that little intro. I'm like, this is so melodramatic. Like, it's not a bad song. It's a really good song, but it's just so over the top in this scene. And then the rain comes in as the chorus hits. It's so bad.
All right, I got two more logical fallacies here.
All right.
One, Elektra's dad is told that he's a target of an assassination by the man who ordered the hit, and then lets Elektra get into the limo with him without any fighting against her. Not any like, oh no, get a cab, nothing. Just, yeah, sure, come in the murder car with me. Second, at the funeral when it's raining, Daredevil takes off his glasses to see her in the rain. His eyes don't work. He's not using his eyes to do that.
I want to say it's symbolism of some type. Like maybe it's symbolism for Matt trying to expose himself to her. Like, hey, no, I'm here as I am, not who I'm hiding and pretending to be. But I feel like the curtains are just blue.
Yeah. I just don't think anyone thought that through.
Another unnecessary edit Why was Fisk laughing about Elektra turning her back on Matt before, he got into his limo? Is it because she's sad? Is it because he doesn't want to see them together? Is it for absolutely no reason whatsoever? It's just completely unnecessary.
Yes, it is. So it's in the movie.
You could have just cut it out. It's like 3, 4, 5 seconds. Just take it out. It's not going to change anything. It makes it worse.
Not great. But you know what is less not great? Is the Kevin Smith cameo.
Kevin Smith as Kirby the coroner. I love it. It's great. Did you see what he was typing out before Ben slipped him the $100 bill?
No.
So first off, he's on a morgue message board website, and in his message, he's typing out, "I'll drop you like a 3-year-old corpse's testicles," before he's interrupted.
That's amazing. Terrific.
Also, for the sake of design, I like the design of how the baton turns into a walking cane and, vice versa. It's really simplistic, but it's visually fun the way we get to see, the coroner like twisting it and like pressing a button on it and it pops. It's fun. It actually makes it engaging.
It's a cool superhero gadget, but how the f did he get that? That's an expensive ass weapon. Like, how does he have something that nice?
How does he have a giant apartment like that? I couldn't tell you.
Aliens.
Meanwhile, Bullseye is assigned by Fisk to kill Elektra. Elektra tracks Daredevil down and challenges him to a fight before incapacitating him by stabbing him through the shoulder. Daredevil protests that he did not kill her father, but Elektra does not believe him until she forcibly unmasks him and realizes that he is Matt. Moments later, Bullseye tracks Elektra down, and Matt is forced to watch hopelessly as Bullseye kills her.
To watch?
Forced to watch, yep.
To watch. Matt Murdock is.
Yes.
Okay.
I get the joke. F off. And oh my god, Elektra doing the whole training thing with her size, and Daredevil's getting suited up, and it's set to Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, which, again, total banger, but it's so over the top that it becomes cringy.
I couldn't help but think, like, how long did it take her to set up this whole sandbag obstacle course, and how is she operating it? Because they're coming down at different times.
She's got, like, a servant over off to the side, just like, no way, she's there. Hit it.
Yep, that's got to be what it is. It is such a silly obstacle course.
And when they hit the iconic line in the song, doesn't the camera cut straight to Matt without his glasses or even the Daredevil cowl on?
Get it?
I lost it because they're trying to like be very serious with it, but it's so serious that it's stupid.
And then when Elektra shows up at the rooftop to fight Matt, she of course has to do the real cheesy pose before she gets to it. Gotta deliver a one-liner and put the daggers over her head, or the scythes.
It's to assert dominance.
Naturally, yes, of course.
During the fight, Daredevil straight out says,
It was a hitman named Bullseye.
How does he know that?
I mean, he said Bullseye like 1,000 times while he was doing it.
He never said my name is Bullseye. We don't see him doing any kind of research about trying to find a hitman named Bullseye.
That's true. Should have been, it was a hitman who kept saying Bullseye.
There you go. Just be like, it was a hitman who did it. Just could have said that. Simple.
Something I do love here in this scene, after Bullseye throws her scythe back at her and like it goes through her hand, the little like salute he does and then he just like runs away giggling after that. Amazing. Touches the Bullseye, salute, twirly exit. He's amazing. I love Bullseye. That's the spinoff we should have gotten.
Yeah, well,
I do know.
I will say, though, the Bullseye Elektra fight is probably my second favorite. It does suffer from a lot of issues, like, the camera doesn't really let the action breathe. It's over fairly quickly. However, it does tell a bit more of a story with them showing how he is outmatching her right from the start. And more than anything, he's just playing with her until she nicks his cheek. And at that point, he's like,
all right, I guess this is the night bitches die.
Yeah, you don't slightly wound the very, very petty man, but, like, he beats her so easily. building her up this whole time, like, oh, I trained with a different sensei every year, which sounds like a bad idea, TBH. But, like, it's supposed to make her just, like, the ultimate fighter, and she can hold her own against Matt, and Matt can hold his own against Bullseye, so it seems an odd imbalance that wasn't, like, not consistent with the rest of the movie, to me.
And speaking of further inconsistencies, in the previous scene, Bullseye tells Fisk he wants a costume. And when we see him in the next scene, the costume is just a black tank top with the same flowy leather coat.
But it matches now. He didn't say I want a good costume.
That sound of silence, folks, is me being in pain. I want you to be aware of that.
That's why I do this.
Wounded, Matt takes refuge in a church, but Bullseye ambushes him by exploiting his weakness to loud sound. When the police swarm the church, Bullseye reveals that Kingpin killed Matt's father. Soon, Matt gains the upper hand and throws Bullseye from the bell tower after an NYPD sniper shoots him through both hands, depriving him of his powerful aim. And it's at this moment I realize, oh, we actually caught up to the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I was not aware of that until this moment. I thought this flashback was just for establishing, oh, hey, this was my childhood and upbringing. Because when he talks to the priest in confession, the priest knows, like, you kill people, and I can't condone that.
Yeah.
Cool. So I thought it was like, oh, this is how they, he went to church for sanctuary. The father found him and healed him up, and now they're friends, right? That's how I read that. But of course, I would have to give this film too much credit to make sense of this stupid plot device.
Any aspiring filmmakers out there thinking about starting their movies in media res, don't. Just stop it. Rethink the whole thing. Start it at the beginning. If your story is so bland that you have to cut to an exciting part near the end in order to get people's attention, maybe rework your beginning so it's also attention grabbing. It's just a thought.
All right, Bullseye v. Daredevil round 2. It's longer than 30 seconds. Good for them. And the whole sound thing from the beginning finally comes back. All right, cool. We're getting a bit of payoff with that because it's not used really much else throughout the film. But the thing where Bullseye throws the shards of glass, I felt was so dumb, because it reminded me of this time in middle school where this kid just didn't like me at all. And when I, being the person I am, was like, all right, listen, you want to just continue talking trash? We can just square up, blah, blah, blah. Instead, this man pulls out a stack of Pokemon cards out of the inside pocket of his jean jacket and hand to whatever deity is out there. He started trying to whip them at me, and I just stood there moving my head slightly out of the way to dodge them.
Did you get any of those cards? Got any good ones in there?
I picked them up and ripped them in front of him.
All right, it's a power move. I respect it. But yeah, the way that he throws the broken glass, not consistent with how it flies at him.
He's holding it like he's holding multiple pizzas stacked on each other. He's like, coming through here. Pizza time.
Also pretty clearly not actually holding anything. The way that he just, like, catches the glass. He's just putting his arms out all over the place. And then they just animate the glass to fall there.
It's so bad. It's just so unbelievably bad. I hate it. I hate it so much.
Yep. And Matt dodges it by doing backflips. Because sure.
Slow motion backflip, Steve.
Oh yeah, we gotta see how he's getting in between all those pieces of glass with his heightened senses.
Determined to avenge Elektra, Matt ambushes Fisk in his office. In the ensuing fight, he ultimately triumphs against Fisk's brute strength by using his sonar hearing to see Fisk after he is drenched in rain from a broken window. Broken window? Whatever.
Broken pipe.
And I don't care. I gave up. During their confrontation, Fisk admits that he killed Jack on Fallon's orders and that Elektra's death was nothing but a casualty. As the police arrive to arrest Fisk, he threatens to reveal Daredevil's identity to the world, but Matt points out that no one will ever believe that Daredevil is a blind man. So Fisk stripping down is symbolic in that he's changing into his true self. Kind of a counter to how Daredevil puts a suit on, Fisk takes his off.
I think the line that he says here to James Wesley...
I was raised in the Bronx, Wesley. This is something you wouldn't understand.
It's a genuinely good line. I'll say it. Good piece of dialogue in the movie.
A rarity in this film, as we know.
Absolutely. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that was something Duncan came up with himself.
You know what? For the sake of not giving this film too much credit and wanting to give him more, I agree.
Absolutely. Good job, Michael.
You also really feel the size differences between these two in this fight. Again, they do a great job at making Kingpin seem like an absolute force to be reckoned with physically. And I love at the end, the little knee shot that Daredevil hits Kingpin with. Like, fun fact, if you are ever faced with a much larger opponent, go for the joints. You go for the knees, you go for the elbows, you go for the inside of the wrist, because I don't care how big you are, it's gonna hurt.
Sweep the leg, put him in a body bag. Oh man, yeah, no, this is my favorite fight in the movie. Not saying much, it's a low bar, but I think this tells the most story of any of the fights, and it really showcases both the heroes and the villains' strengths as well as their differences, and it all comes to a logical conclusion that works out for the hero.
I will say though, Daredevil sparing Kingpin in order to show his emotional growth is really on the nose for a man who mere moments ago threw another man off a church.
And what did he say after he threw Bullseye off a church?
Bullseye.
Gotta love it.
Another moment of Matt deciding that he doesn't care if people know he's Daredevil because he just keeps getting away with it. He leaves his cowl in Fisk's office and just walks around the rooftops without a mask on, but still in full costume.
Yep, no one will ever believe that Daredevil's a blind man. Unless they see him without his mask and see his fucking eyes.
Sometime after Elektra's death, Matt visits the roof of his apartment where the two of them first kissed and unexpectedly finds Elektra's necklace with her name engraved upon it in Braille, hinting that she might still be alive. Urich prepares to publish an article revealing Daredevil's identity, but decides against it at the last minute, finally accepting that Daredevil's efforts have improved the city. He exits the New York Post's office into the night outside and sees Daredevil atop a roof. Daredevil takes off, leaping off the building to pursue his nightly crime-fighting routine. Elektra's dead! Or is she? This ominous ending would eventually bring us another terrible film, Elektra.
They very much do not care about telling us how she's alive at all, because we very clearly saw her get stabbed and impaled, and we saw her heart literally stop beating as she was bleeding out, and then Matt just kind of left her there. Again, reminding me of the show, she does die and she is resurrected there, but I don't see any vampire zombie ninjas showing up in this universe.
I feel like they do actually explain it, if I remember correctly, in Elektra, that she just gets resurrected through reasons. The what I remember I don't want to talk about right now because it's going to trigger me. But in any case, Urich deciding that Daredevil is needed, again, really feels like something that would be put into a Batman film at the end, including the leaping off a building to pursue crime fighting at night before cutting to credits. Again, make a Batman film if you want to make a Batman film.
And of course, like, Ben just happens to step outside at the moment that Daredevil is brooding on a nearby rooftop, sees him completely engulfed in shadow, and then says,
"Go get him, Matt."
Not really understanding Daredevil's powers.
Nope. But he's just rolling with it.
Keep rolling, 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 what?
And thank God, Steve, this film is over.
Whew. All right, the credits roll, and then we can just be relieved that there's no movie left. Oh, wait a second.
Elsewhere, a heavily bandaged Bullseye wakes up in a heavily guarded hospital room and kills a fly off camera with a syringe needle. Because get it, Steve? Sequel. They're going to do a sequel. Sequel, Steve.
Okay, cool. That's what we're doing next week, right? Daredevil 2? All a Bullseye?
Daredevil 2, you didn't see this coming.
Daredevil 2, now you see me.
Daredevil 2, the devil versus whatever. It's stupid. It's stupid. I'm tired. I'm done. I don't want to.
And that wraps up the breakdown.
Thank God we did it, and we really, really broke down this time, Steve.
Oh my goodness, the edginess is just too much for me, Corey. I can't handle it.
You know what I can handle right now, though?
Not much, I'm guessing.
Mostly some commercials as we take a quick break, folks. All right, we'll be right back.
Boom.
Welcome back, folks.
Wow, you're still here. Good for you.
Yeah, someone has to be trotting this along to keep the lights on around this place. It can't be dark all the time.
Tell that to Daredevil.
Yeah, listen, I'll get to it, all right? Just give me a...
Little bits!
Oh, just a little bit.
That's right, folks. Little bits of the part of the pod where we get to those things that we didn't get to say. Maybe some fun stuff that we learned along the way. So, Steve, you got any bits?
In the beginning, when Daredevil is chasing down Jose Quesada, Jose is just comically tripping over himself and falling over and over again. There are no obstacles in the street. He just falls down, and he falls down again, and then he just falls down the stairs. Like, it's almost like he just jumped down the stairs, as if that would be a quicker way of getting down there than walking.
Parkour.
And he's just so... nope. Opposite of parkour. He's falling without style, I will say. And then, after he gets knocked down onto the subway tracks, he has so much time to get back up before the train comes. There's a good, 30 seconds where he's just laying there. He's like, oh, well, I guess I'm gonna die. Could easily get up.
He just didn't want to be a part of the movie anymore, Steve.
No, I can't blame him there. You got a bit?
The following people were considered for the role of Elektra. Penelope Cruz, Salma Hayek, Natalie Portman, Lucy Liu, Jessica Alba, Katie Holmes, Mia Maestro, Rona Mitra, Jolene Blalock, and Scream Queen Neve Campbell.
I feel like you made 3 of those up.
The ones that you probably don't know, they've been in really bad B-level films. One of them was specifically in Lake Placid, and I also believe Eight-Legged Freaks.
Oh, so they would have been slumming it here. This is a D-level film. D for Devil.
And speaking of Devil, those considered for the role of Matt Murdock, Colin Farrell was considered, Vin Diesel, Matt Damon, Edward Norton, and Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce would have done well. Vin Diesel would have made a better Kingpin.
Yeah, I think if they were to go with him, he would have had to drop muscle mass, and that just doesn't... I don't want to see that kind of Vin Diesel.
Absolutely.
Matt Damon in that costume? No, not at all. Edward Norton in the costume? I could see it.
I mean, early 2000s Edward Norton was pretty skinny, though. He'd have to bulk up. Look at Fight Club or People vs. Larry Flint. That's the era of Norton you're dealing with.
I mean, yeah, he hits the weights for a few weeks. He'd be fine.
Yeah, all right. Talented man. Wonderful. Love him as Bruce Banner.
As a person, Steve, you got any bits?
As a person, I do got some bits. So when Foggy hears Elektra's name for the first time, he immediately does, the cliche comic book movie thing where, if you make fun of the comic book name, then it makes it okay, whatever. So he, makes fun of Elektra's name. She sounds like a Mexican appetizer or whatever. But then Matt mentions that she's the daughter of Nicholas Nachios. And Foggy knows who Nicholas Nachios is immediately. Oh, the billionaire. Nachios isn't really a common name. That is the part of Elektra's name that he makes fun of. So it doesn't track whatsoever that he would have that reaction if he knows who Nicholas Nachios is. Cory, you got a bit?
This would be the first film ever where Colin Farrell was allowed to use his authentic Irish accent.
Oh, well, they got that going for us.
Yeah, I think that was nice. He actually came into production expecting to have to use his American accent, but the director, in a great move, just said, no, this bullseye's Irish, use your accent. Steve, you got a bit?
Yeah, I got one more bit, and it comes back to something that we were talking about in the beginning, where the delivery of Daredevil's lines. One that's just absolutely atrocious and unforgivable. After he beats the criminal in front of his kid, and he turns to the kid and the kid's crying, he just growls at him, "I'm not the bad guy, kid." There's nothing good about that delivery. There's nothing good about that line. There's nothing good about that scene. It's the nexus of awful.
That scene literally goes nowhere because you think that, oh, I'm going to have some internal conflict about what I'm doing. And then it's just like, no, it's gone because I had sex.
Yeah, it never pays off. Cory, you got any more bits?
Now, Steve, this wouldn't be the first time that both Garner and Affleck would perform together. Both of them would appear in 2001's Pearl Harbor, and it's reported that their friendship first started on that film and it further blossomed during the shooting of this film. They would eventually begin dating in August of 2004, get married in June of 2005, and they would go on to have 3 children together before divorcing in 2018.
It's great.
I mean, they were a well-known power couple for quite some time.
Okay, they were Benifer.
No, Benifer was him and Jennifer Lopez.
They were also Benifer. They were both Benifer.
I'm going to count that as another little bit.
Technically 3 Benifers.
Benifer, the return.
Yeah.
Little bits!
Oh, just a little bit.
All right, folks, now it's time for everybody's favorite segment.
Is it the entitled Ben Affleck segment?
That's right, Steve. It's as played by Ben Affleck.
Oh, the entitled Ben Affleck segment.
Now, for those who've never listened in, as played by Ben Affleck.
Untitled Ben Affleck segment.
Is when we choose one character from the film that we just watched to replace with Ben Affleck. Now, there are 3 eras of Ben Affleck that we have to choose from, so we choose a character to replace with Ben Affleck, what era and why. First off, we have the Good Will Hunting era Ben Affleck, which is when he was the indie darling, just started to get into action films. Next up is the Jiggly era Ben Affleck. That's the rom-com, starting around the release of the Jiggly film. Finally, we have Batfleck era Ben Affleck, where he's older, more chiseled, and got that beautiful salt and pepper beard. Now, with this being Affleck August, we could decide to replace Ben Affleck with another version of Ben Affleck if we so choose. Now, with that all being said, Steve, who are you replacing with Ben Affleck? What era, and why?
Cory, I am going to be replacing Jack the Devil Murdoch with Batfleck era Ben Affleck. 1, he's supposed to be a very, very good boxer past his prime. Batfleck has got the gray going on, he's got the bulk going on, he's very intimidating, and he looks remarkably like the guy playing Matt Murdock as an adult, so you believe that he's his dad. Just seems right to me. So, Cory, who are you replacing with Ben Affleck, what era, and why?
Well, Steve, I think I would have to also choose Batfleck era Ben Affleck, but I would actually be replacing Eric Avari as Nicolas Nachios in this. Why? Because I'd like to imagine that Elektra has daddy issues, and that makes it funny to me because this film is laughable and terrible.
Love that. Even though you are... Yeah, you'd be depriving us of Eric Avari. But that's fine. I like it. I like your reasoning. I like your face.
I like yours too. All right, folks, that's going to be wrapping up as played by Ben Affleck.
Untitled Ben Affleck segment.
And it's going to be leading us to our final question, which, of course, is, Steve, would you watch this film again?
No, I really don't want to. It hasn't held up. It just reminds me how bad my taste was when I was 13. I'd rather just watch either better movies or worse movies.
Now, Steve, are there any circumstances in which you would watch this film again?
I just have to be real drunk. Any other context is probably just icing on the cake, but I'd have, like, that's the main requirement. That's the core of the issue. I would have to be super drunk to watch this. Cory, would you watch this movie again?
Absolutely not. Not even if it were the director's cut. I detest this film with a burning passion, not because it is such a huge stain on Ben Affleck's career, but also it's a really bad comic book adaptation. It does not make good use of its time because it decides to cram a whole bunch of crap in without properly expanding on it. These moments primarily do not feel earned by these characters. The cinematography is terrible. I can't find true enjoyment while watching this film.
Well put. However, what circumstances would it take for you to watch this again?
Well, Steve, I can put that in a very elegant manner. Fuck you, pay me. Someone literally will need to give me real monies in my hand to watch this film again. However much that is, that is up for debate.
Well, how much money are we talking here?
Steve, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Just saying. No, this film absolutely deserves to be forgotten about unless people want to take it as a warning of don't do this in a film.
Oh, but what about the rumored return of Elektra?
If it's to make fun of this film, sure.
Yeah, it probably will be. It's Deadpool.
Deadpool on arrival. Yep. All right, folks, and that is going to wrap up 2003's Daredevil, our first stop in Affleck August. We did it.
We definitely did something here. God, if this is the kind of bar that we're setting for Affleck August, I can't imagine what horrors lie ahead of us. What awful films are we gonna have to watch next? You know?
Well, you know what, Steve? I think that with this next film, you might want to talk it over with your therapist. So, but before you do that, go ahead. Tell us, what are we covering next time?
Don't do that.
It's not your fault, Steve.
Don't do that.
Daredevil isn't your fault.
Shut up.
It's not your fault.
Shut up. We're doing Good Will Hunting.
That's right, folks. 1997's Good Will Hunting, directed by Gus Van Sant, written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, also starring them and the late and great, amazing Robin Williams. One more. Excellent, folks. But, of course, that's going to be next time. Until then, I think I'm Cory.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm probably Steve. Maybe I'm a blind man. I can't tell anymore.
Bye!
Bye. Like a blind man, ducking for the very first time. Daredevil!